He's a lengthy guy. He can support the rim. He's decent on the perimeter. Like, I like Zubac. I think he's a very, very good player. And for what you're trying to replace in Nurk, I think he's a perfect match.
Speaking of options that I'd like to see the Suns keep open, this is a trade that I think was your best one.
Okay.
I had also the one that I don't know how we complete,
yeah.
but I'd very much like to figure it out. It's the Suns and the Clippers and TBD team, which is my favorite on our Trade Machine Tuesdays, one of these complicated 3-team deals. But the Suns would send out Jusuf Nurkic. They'd get Zubac from the Clippers. Clippers would send out Bones Highland to this mystery team. Clippers would get a Suns pick and something else of value from said third team. This is a deal where I think you get better as a Suns team. I don't know how we get the Clippers better, but I'm willing to entertain who that third team could be that could help them if this is interesting.
I like this trade the most. Probably the most out of every single one, because I think Zubac is a very underrated player. I think defensively, he's always given us problems.
Yeah.
He's a lengthy guy. He can support the rim. He's decent on the perimeter. Like, I like Zubac. I think he's a very, very good player. And for what you're trying to replace in Nurk, I think he's a perfect match.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think I proposed him when we were first talking about DeAndre Ayton trades last year heading into the new season, and people were really down on it, but I don't think they realized that Zubac is a very good player. You look at the 12 points and 9 rebounds, and it doesn't really leap off the page. But if you're looking at defensive rim protection, like last year, DA held opponents to 1.4% worse shooting at the rim. Nurkic was at 8.6% worse shooting. Zubac was at 11.5% worse shooting at the rim. He's very good, and he's actually a kind of a master of drop coverage, which is something that we saw Mike Budenholzer do a lot with his bigs in Milwaukee with Brook Lopez. So he would be a really natural fit for the Suns' new head coach in that regard as well. The problem is this probably only happens if the Clippers get early indication that, like, from Paul George, like, yeah, I'm not coming back, and they decide to kind of go a different direction, at which point it's like, okay, if you give us a first round pick, that helps us kind of for the future. Yeah. And, Nurk isn't that much of a downgrade for us, especially if we're not trying to contend next year.
Yeah, because otherwise, the Clippers wouldn't do this deal.
Right.
They know how valuable Zubac is.
Right.
But let's be honest. There's a real possibility that PG isn't a Clipper next year. I think a very serious one, because they didn't give him, all indication was they didn't give him what he wanted in an extension. There's going to be a team, maybe even the 76ers, who's desperate enough to give him that contract he's looking for. And him walking from LA, I don't think is as crazy as some may think it is. So then they're going to be thinking, how do we do things? How do we have an eye to the future with a foot in the present kind of stuff in LA? So,
and Harden's a free agent,
Yes.
Harden is also a free agent.
So, you don't know what the market's going to be out there for him. I mean, the easy thing is to come back to the Clippers if they want him back. Obviously, I would assume they would, but there's no guarantees there either. We've seen how fickle Harden can be too. So, there could be a scenario where you get James Harden, Chris Paul, and LeBron all on the Suns at the same time.
I think there's.
I'm joking.
I think there's a world where the Clippers, though, do some really crazy things this offseason, because they're opening the Intuit Dome. If Paul George walks, like, they might be getting real creative on how to get star power out there to LA, and may make multiple moves where you could be a bit part in a move where, maybe they're like, okay, Nurkic and for Zubac gets you a decent center, a guy that's not that much of a difference, but then we get an asset that then we can try to trade for another guy. Like, I think the Clippers are one of the most fascinating teams this offseason in terms of what they're going to do, because Ballmer isn't going to sit on his hands with that new building opening.
Yeah, and Mark raised a good point in the chat saying, like, they probably won't sell completely and blow it up because they do have that new arena, and you're not going to sell tickets if you're completely blowing it up and retooling for the future. But like you said, in 3-team deals and crazy deals, suddenly guys might become expendable. Suddenly teams might need to raise or lower their salary. And in that case, Zubac only earns $11.7 million next season. So he's a piece that you could bring back if you're the Suns.
And if Ballmer doesn't want to lose and get a high draft pick, wouldn't you want to bet on another team maybe getting that for you? And I mean, there was a point in time in the season where we were talking about the Suns can't win without Jusuf Nurkic, right? And now in retrospect in the playoffs, it's like, well, yikes.
They couldn't win with anybody that they had on the roster.
He's not like dead weight. Like, I know he's not perfect, but he's a good player, especially for regular season minutes. Like, he's good enough.
The only problem I have with Jusuf Nurkic is the fact that you just cannot miss as many shots at the rim as he continues to miss, because it just is. They were momentum killers to the nth degree, and we weren't used to seeing that, to be honest with you, because DA didn't miss at that high of a clip, and so that was just a little bit different. But again, I think Nurk is a good player. He's not great. He's not phenomenal. He's a good player. He provides a little bit of levity to that already kind of weird locker room. So I'm okay with Nurk. The 180 that a lot of people have taken on him because of the playoffs obviously is something to deal with. But if you ended up keeping him, it's not the end of the world, but he's just got to be so much better around the rim. But he's always been that player. Yeah. He's always been the mister of a lot of bunnies.